Hey guys, it's time now to take a look at a game of Dawn of War that does not actually feature me playing. It's a game between two players, and the first one of these is Chaos. He's playing Necrons here, despite his name being Chaos, named after a completely different race, but that's him as Necrons. And his opponent is Bourdain, an Orc player. And I've picked up this replay from Dao Sanctuary, so check that site out if you want to watch some good Dawn of War replays. I'm getting all of my content from there at the moment. Very good site for it so far. A lot of pessimism on that site about the situation of the game and the patch and so forth, but that's as can be expected. Now the map is Fallen City, if I can recall correctly, and here are the Orcs over here putting up a plasma generator, or just generator if you want to call it that. Gets the power, is the long and short of it. And we've got some slugger boys capturing strategic point, as you do, and some Gretchen running around, some Grotz squad going around building stuff. And over here, back to the Necrons, we've got the first lot of Necron warriors heading out. Necron warriors initially don't cost you anything, but Necrons sort of work on a different kind of resource system than the other races, and I'll just briefly explain it for people who are either new to Dawn of War or don't really know much about Dawn of War at all. Usually you get requisition, which is kind of like your minerals, equivalent of minerals, your cash from capturing strategic points. Well, the Necrons don't actually use requisition, they only use power. That's why you see so many power generators going up at the Necron base. All of the units cost power to build. But capturing strategic points will increase the rate at which your units actually are built. So initially you can't actually build units very quickly at all. They take ages to create, but you can increase that rate by capturing strategic points. Now, the Necron warriors themselves can't actually capture or decapture strategic points either. Only the builder unit, the Scarabs from the Necrons, can actually do that. So they are actually quite different. Hats off to Relic for actually making a fairly diverse kind of race. And I think Necrons probably are one of the well, probably, if not the most diverse race of all of the races in Dawn of War. But back to the Orcs, we've got a Big Mech, which is the Orc leader, up against the Necron Lord, which is the Necron leader, and they're both going at it, but the Necron Lord has a squad in support, and Necron warriors are pretty beefy units. They're really good in combat and at shooting, but they run slow, and they're kind of expensive. Not to mention the fact that they actually get up from the ground sometimes when they die. Like, they have a percent chance, I think, of actually just climbing back up from the dead. They're kind of like the science fiction equivalent of like the undead. That's always a good way of thinking of them. In fact, the Warhammer universe, which is the tabletop game that these games are based on, there's the Warhammer 40,000, which is the science fiction version of the game, and the Warhammer version of the game, which is the fantasy style. Well, basically, Games Workshop, which is the company that makes these tabletop games, just sort of mirrors the two universes on each other, and there's kind of like equivalent race for each race in either universe. For example, they've got the Orcs in Warhammer, and then there's the Orcs in Space kind of Orcs in 40k. But I'm probably talking jargon for a lot of you guys, so sorry about that. I just wanted to make the point that Necrons are very much like the undead. That's all I wanted to say. So back to the Necrons, we've got a group of Scarabs heading out to capture this critical point here, but the Slugger boys are in there right away. They're starting to get stuck in using their choppers, their axes, straight away in the Scarabs, and ushering them away from that critical point there on the bridge. This map is a map which is divided by a river. That's the symmetry of it, and it has two bridges on either side of the map, and both of those bridges have critical points on them. So it's kind of like capture the bridge style of map, although there's a bit more to it than that. There's on either side of the river there's a thermoplasma generator slag deposit, which allows you to get some serious power going later on in the game. So we'll see that later. But for now, things are just starting to get a little bit scrappy. Over here in the middle of the map, we've got a couple of groups of Slugger boys going at it against the Scarabs, and the Necrons aren't too happy about that. They're bringing out the Necron Lord and a couple of Necron squads in the foreground and in the background, so the Orcs are getting boxed in here. Slugger boys having to retreat, get out of the way. But one thing I should point out is that because Necrons don't capture the map very quickly because they only have worker units to actually capture points with, the Orc player in this case has actually got more than 50% of the strategic points, and as you can see, we're actually looking at the Necrons half of the map here, and the Orcs have already set up little outposts and war banners with listing posts, and the Necrons are trying to get up some momentum to stomp them. I haven't really played very much Necrons. I've given them a couple of games just to test out their abilities and see how they work. But I really get the impression that Necrons are all about building up momentum, because their units are so powerful and their abilities are really quality abilities, but they just don't have the ability to be in all places at once and really put a lot of sort of harassment in on the enemy. Their basic units have got this ability where they can just recall all of their squads or any of their squads at a particular time to their buildings, which is very handy. And their leader unit, the Necron Lord, as you see here, actually has an ability to teleport straight from the get-go. So, by the way, the Orks also have that as well with their leader. He's just used this little teleporter to head around somewhere else on the map. So, all these teleportation units are really great for avoiding combat, getting out of battles that you're losing, and also sort of jumping in behind enemies that are fleeing and stuff like that. But at this point, we've got the Necron Lord just getting rid of the Orks from his territory. But despite that, the Orks still have the majority of the map. They've still got the bridge on the left. They've secured that. Actually, I don't think they have the bridge on the right, but that doesn't really make too much of a difference. In the foreground here, we've got Necron warriors just having a bit of a firefight with the Orks. Necron warriors just really good shooting units, and the Orks, the Slugger Boys, the initial Ork unit, are much better in combat than they are at shooting. You can get some more powerful shooter units for Orks later on, but just straight out of the box, right at the get-go, Orks are mainly built for combat, and that really sort of suits their role and so forth. But Necrons, in the meantime, got an obelisk up there over the strategic point, and that little ability you saw there is just I think the obelisk using something to attack the Orks with. It's that I forget what the exact name of it is, but it really sort of disrupts enemy squads quite well. And the Necrons really seem to be in a controlling defensive position here. They're not letting the Orks get too far into their territory. The Orks having to retreat, just doing a little bit of damage here and there. But once that Necron economy starts to kick in seriously, all those plasma generators start just churning out the power. That's where we're going to see some higher tech Necron units, and the Necron will start really taking it to the Ork. But the Orks have really just got to get prepared for that. Got to get the strategic points, got to get the critical points as well, and start taking up at home, getting plenty of wire banners. The Orks have a special additional third kind of resource called I think they just call it Ork resource, and it depends on how many Orks you have, and you can increase the amount of Orks you have by making those banners, which also have a little gun on top of them. But a bit of a firefight erupting here. As you saw, that big green explosion was the defensive Necron building built on top of the strategic point, doing that. Very good for just getting rid of enemy squads in the area and disrupting them, blasting them away. And Orks, once again, this is probably about the third time so far this happened, have been driven back past their side of the bridge. And once that happens, the Necron player just doesn't really need to press the advantage too much. He can just sort of hang back a bit and wait for reinforcements to kick in. But whoa, this time it looks like the Necrons are advancing, or are they? It's hard really to tell. Mysterious Necrons. Always difficult to tell what their intentions are. But one thing's for sure, the Scarabs are hard at work, rushing around the map, looking for things to do. And on the Orks side of the map, things are looking pretty studious as well. Squads are running around here and there. And again, let's take a look from the Orks perspective over here, just rushing around, slugging away. Yeah, these slugger units really aren't going to do too much damage to the Necrons at all, because they just attack quite weakly. They're really built for combat, these Ork units, and he's going to have to wait for some shooter squads before he can actually get some stuff going. So yeah, just in the meantime, while we're sort of watching some fairly repetitive combat, really been enjoying Dawn of War still. I've been playing a lot of games, as you guys have been seeing. I'm really enjoying making commentaries for them as well. It's quite fun being able to zoom the camera around and see these battles take place. I've got the Orks swarming into the Necron territory at this point, and not too much tech happening back at home. Just really getting the units up, and I think the Ork is really focused